Welcome to part two of the technique video lesson help on paper one, section A, question 4. A reminder that you should have actually watched part one just to make sure you're very confident on the technique. And then also a reminder of the guidelines. These are obviously crucial to the rest of the lesson as they are with all actually online lessons. So to start with, want you to finish these sentences. I would recommend actually writing out as much as possible. So spend a couple of minutes doing this just to see what you do remember about what it requires you to do. And then the second one is what are the common errors that are included. So I'd recommend pausing for 2 or 3 minutes now and then playing. And I'm going to let you do that now. Great. So hopefully that you got down some of those points about what question 4 requires you to do. 2 separate features about a topic. Your precision is key throughout, and you need 2 pieces of your own knowledge. Some other common errors you've got are too much time spent on this question, not spotting the concept or chronology. Okay, so really, really important, but to make sure you're good in our technique, and hopefully that will allow us to proceed with the rest of the lesson, in which that we're going to go through your worked example and how you break it down. So here is the question we're going to be focusing on. Just want to start with, though, really important to recall and review what we can remember about this topic. This is important because you probably did this back in September and October. So what I suggest you do is firstly, see if you can define prohibition. If you can't define it, the rest of it will fall apart. Okay, so I'm going to give you just a second, and you can pause now to try to define it. Either write it down or say it. Okay, so hopefully you didn't just get the banning of alcohol, but that is correct. It's the banning of you creating, selling, and transporting alcohol. And it's also known as the 18th Amendment. So it's constitutional law. Okay, really important you were clear on that definition, because if you're not, the other parts or the other tail of the question won't really make sense. What I'm going to do on the video is actually provide a link which should pop up, which will take you to a short video on prohibition, or you're welcome but to have a look at your notes too. And now the rest of the questions, which I'm going to put up, and again I'm going to pause, allow you to answer them, and then go through the answers. Okay, so hopefully you got down a number of reasons for why it was introduced. Okay, in short, there was a feeling that alcohol was leading to a decline in moral values and society, and this included violence, increases in crime, more inequality, and health issues. As you'll see, this is a bit ironic in terms of the consequences of banning alcohol. So that's number 2. Number 3, this is something people often fall down on, certainly when it was repealed or abolished. So it started or came into law in 1920, and it lasted until 1933, when Franklin Roosevelt abolished it, which was very popular. And that's one thing he campaigned on in the election 32. Fourth, what was moonshine. Moonshine was alcohol that was created at home, and often it wasn't, but created properly. Finally, the two consequences of your prohibition. There are a number of them, and some of them actually overlap. But I think some of the best way but to look at it is, firstly, more corruption in society. Okay. Secondly, increases in crime. And then you've got third and fourth, which are less well known but important, actually did increase that did increase inequality or deepened inequality. And there are also some health issues with things like moonshine. So hopefully that's enough give a recap. But again, if you're not sure, go back and have a look at your notes and watch the video. Otherwise, I think you'll struggle but to actually answer the question. So let's go on to a recap then of the way that you answer any questions and your 4 steps. Hopefully that you remember this and you can sort of spot how each step marries up but with the question, which we've got as describe 2 ways in which prohibition had an impact on society. Okay, now let's actually do a bit of a deconstructing of that question, so you're very sure about it. Well, the thing that you're focusing on in terms of the deconstruction is the tail. Okay, so we've got our topic, which is your prohibition. You haven't got the years, but that's fine here. What you do have, which is really important, is the rest of the tail. So it's about impact, which is also known but as your consequence. And we're looking at this on society, not the economy. Okay, a number of people would have or will have in an exam be writing about the economy, or they'll be writing more generally about prohibition, why it started, for example. So that's actually how you deconstruct the question. What I'm going to do now is show you part of a worked example. Okay, so be prepared but to read this on the next slide. So here is our worked example. What I'd like you to do is to read through it first. Okay, so I suggest that you pause in a second, and then I'll read through it, and then I'm going to give you like another task as well. So pause the video now. Okay, so I'm going to read through it now. Firstly, prohibition led to a more corrupt society. When alcohol was banned in 1920, people still wanted to drink even though this was against the law. They made their own alcohol called moonshine, while illegal drinking clubs known as speakeasies were created. These are examples of how prohibition made society more willing to break the law and be corrupt. Secondly, prohibition led to more crime in society. Right, what I want you to do now is, in a second, pause the video, and I want you to try to pick out 3 parts, and there are different examples of this. Firstly, where do you see the ways that this person has here highlighted? Secondly, what are some of their own knowledge examples? And thirdly, where is the detail? Okay, so pause the video now. Right, now let's go through this and you're going to see where they are. So I've highlighted it. We've got in yellow the 2 ways, more corrupt and more crime. Now again, actually notice these are different. They are linked, but they're separate points. You've also got, which I didn't mention before, the signposting firstly and secondly. But very crucial to this is the middle part and the last part of the first paragraph. Okay, in green that you've got some of your facts or your deps, so you've got some key terms there, but and a date. And then in blue, you've got some of your answer but amplified or actually linked back to the impact, just to make sure the examiner is very sure that you're very sure about the impact on your society. What you would have noticed about the second point is that it is undeveloped. So this answer, if you're curious, would probably have got 2, maybe 3, if they're going to be very generous with the first paragraph. Which links into our final bit for today, which is what I want you to do, as part of your homework, to complete the second point. Okay, so the second point but of that question was underdone. I'd like you but to do it and actually write it into the comment box on Show My Homework. Thank you for watching.